I first got in the trucking industry in 1986 when I was invited to join my wife's family's ready-mix concrete business here in Des Moines. We ran 35 ready-mix trucks, a cement tanker, and 3 dump trucks. And my dad, I've been around trucks most of my life. My dad used to work for Iran, and then he bought his own truck and leased onto then the Mickow Corporation, which we all know today as TMC. A bunch of his friends had bull haulers, so I mean I've been around semis pretty much my whole life. I was born in Decorah, Iowa, up in the beautiful northeast part of the state. After a couple of short moves, we settled in Bettendorf, Iowa, which is where I went to all my schooling. Graduated from Bettendorf in 1980. Had a love of agriculture, went back to Decorah and worked on the family farm most of the summers. And once I realized that farming wasn't an option for me, I chose to go to Northwest Missouri State University and study agricultural business. When I first got out of college, I went to work for the Farm Credit System, was a loan officer for them in Princeton, Illinois. Shortly thereafter, was invited to join my wife's ready-mix business, as I'd mentioned earlier. So in 1986, we moved to Central Iowa and got involved in that business. A little bit about JMT Trucking. In 1994, after the sale of the family ready-mix business, I started JMT Trucking with the 3 dump trucks that we had in the ready-mix business. It got its name from the first initials of myself and my 2 boys, Mitchell and Tyler. That's where you get the JMT. So in '94, started with 3 trucks, and by the end of that year, we grew by a couple of trucks. In 1995, a good friend of mine introduced me to, well, I knew Jim Rasmussen, but he got Jim and I together to consider buying out a competitor in the Des Moines area in the dump truck business. So following that acquisition, we were up to 17 trucks and have just experienced steady growth to our current number of 65 trucks today. We're based in Central Iowa. We're an interstate carrier of construction. Basically, we work with residential, commercial, heavy highway, agriculture, airport, pretty much anything that involves hauling material, we do it. The most unique factor that I see of JMT in relationship to the Motor Truck Association is most of our carrier members are over the road. You know, multiple states, flatbed, tank, van, refrigerated, that sort of thing. We are our dump truck company. We're interstate, so we don't cross lines. So I come from a little bit of a different angle than most of our members, and I guess I see that as a bit of a challenge, but I'm ready to learn from them the things that I don't know about their business. I think as part of my involvement in the association and coming from my unique position in relationship to the other members, being over the road, I think I can probably reach out to a lot of trucking companies in the line of work that we do and get them more interested in the association and provide them with the information they need to know what we do, and they'll see a value in a membership. I don't think they see the Motor Truck Association as an asset to them, but it's only because I don't think we've gotten the message out to those people exactly what we do and what we provide to them as a service. So I look forward to the opportunity to use my chairmanship in that capacity to go try to attract more people in the construction-related trucking business. I get motivated in a number of different ways, but the reason I get motivated to come to work is, I think, probably number one, survival. You all know what it's like to survive in a small business, and I think that keeps us all very hungry to get to work and change the things that we can control. But more importantly, I guess, my sense of responsibility to my employees. They look to us as a means of providing for their family. And that responsibility I take very seriously, and it's not very hard to get motivated to come to work. There's always a challenge every day in this business. Some of the major issues facing the trucking industry today, and probably will be ongoing into the future, regulatory probably being number one. We hear it all the time, you know, just leave us alone, we'll do our job, we'll do it well. But as we all are aware, government doesn't leave us alone. So I would say dealing with the regulatory changes as we go, emissions is going to be an ongoing concern, I think. Number two, I think attracting and retaining qualified drivers. I hear from carrier members that are over the road, they're struggling more so than I am, being interstate and allowing the guys to come home every day. But I think that's going to continue to be a real issue. And then fuel prices. Again, we struggle with that in our industry probably more so. We don't have the ability to pass on a fuel surcharge quite as easily as those that work under contract. But I'd say those are three pretty big issues today, have been in the past, and probably will be into the future. As president of JMT Trucking, there's a number of obstacles that you face every day. One of the ongoing ones is trying to have the right number of people. We have such a short time frame, working days in a year, and to be able to have enough in the peak times without burning them out, but not having too many in the off season is a real struggle and an ongoing battle all the time. And also in an effort to be lean and mean in a small business, you tend to wear a lot of hats, whether your title's president or it doesn't matter. You wear a lot of different hats, and so with that, there's obstacles that come with every different hat that you put on. So other than that, probably nothing more than any other person trying to run a small business experiences, but it definitely is a challenge at times. Some of the barriers to profitability that we experience at JMT, like most other small companies, it's the pulse of the economy. I mean, that drives all of us, good and bad. But beyond that, for us, it's weather. We have such a small opportunity, a small window of opportunity to make profit, similar to a farmer. So like this year, for example, when you start out raining 4 days out of the week, it just shrinks those number of working days that we have to do our job, and it just puts a lot of pressure on those remaining days of a year to get the job done and get it done efficiently. So weather is a big one, and fuel prices. We all face the volatile fuel prices. But in the construction industry, they're not used to a fuel surcharge. And the way the fuel's fluctuated in the last 2-3 years, it's hard not to enforce a fuel surcharge, but it's a challenge. So it's a real barrier for us. We don't work under contract much, which would set forth a fuel surcharge way of doing it. But so those are probably the weather, the fuel, and just the overall general pulse of the economy, I would say. You know, I don't know that anybody's got all the answers to combating all the changes in their given field. In the construction, I don't know that we're any different than any other. You take the changes. You know, probably the biggest change we've had to deal with is emissions. And what makes it even more difficult for us is we're trying to keep the wheelbase of these trucks at a length so they're maneuverable. You start hanging all of the emission stuff on these trucks, and you got to sacrifice something. And so that's probably our biggest change. But you just take them one at a time, and you collectively try to come up with a solution to the change and move on. I've been asked, you know, what sets us apart from the rest, and I'd say when it comes to dump truck companies, we definitely are above the rest. We're not cocky about that, but we take a lot of pride in our late model equipment and our very seasoned, experienced drivers. Customer really appreciates when a driver knows how to handle a truck on a job site. It makes their job so much easier. The nice thing about the size that we've become, we've got enough trucks of our own. Because of our late model fleet, we don't have a lot of breakdowns, but when we do, we usually can substitute that truck with one of our own or an independent. We have a lot of independents that work for us and that we can call on in the time of need. So just the ability to service the customer when and where and do about whatever, I think sets us apart from the rest. Some of the signs that I look for to determine what the economy is doing are probably similar to what most people do. I tend to look at unemployment numbers, interest rates, because that drives home building a lot. Transportation bill out of Washington is a big factor that's particularly frustrating. Without a transportation bill, the state doesn't know how much money they've got to work with, which restricts their ability to put jobs out for bid. So some of those things I look for to see what's going on. The fact that we're just in central Iowa helps. I don't have to be so concerned with what's happening on the East Coast, West Coast like some of our carrier members do. But I'd say those pretty much give me an idea what our year looks like. I first joined, and to be honest with you, I don't know the year that I joined the Motor Truck Association, but I do remember I was in the ready mix business, and I needed a few questions answered. And actually I bought forms. I bought annual inspection forms and some other things from the association. It's how I first got introduced to the association. And I've always been a big believer in supporting the associations that are out there fighting on your behalf. And the Motor Truck Association is one of those. When we got out of the ready mix business and as I started JMT and as it grew, there was a need. I needed to be much more aware of what it took to be in the trucking industry, and I relied on the Motor Truck Association. I retained my membership in the Motor Truck Association for a number of reasons. The more I've gotten involved, the more I appreciate what the association stands for. It's an easy one when it comes to deciding whether or not to be a member. They're out there every day fighting bad business legislation on our behalf, fighting all the regulatory stuff that Washington's throwing at the trucking industry as a whole. It's a no-brainer for me to be a member of the Motor Truck Association for what I've gotten back from that. I just hope when my year of chairmanship is completed that people will remember me as somebody that's very passionate about his business, about the association's business, and someone that gives 100%. It's not going to have all the right answers, but is a good listener, willing to listen to both sides of a disagreement, one that will listen to anybody within the association regardless of their position in the association. I think it's important to give everybody their due time and just, a guy that is there if you need him. I've been asked a couple times what I hope to accomplish as chairman of the board of the Motor Truck Association. I haven't, be totally honest with you, I haven't given it a lot of thought. I'm not a list of goals type of guy. I think people that set goals just set themselves up for failure. You can set all the goals you want, but if you don't stick to it, you're going to let yourself down. So I haven't set a lot of goals, to be honest with you. I just hope to learn a lot from the membership because there's a lot about the trucking industry I don't know because I'm in the construction type trucking. I hope I can continue to provide the type of leadership that this association has come to expect. I'm very humbled when I look at the list of leaders this association has had, and I just hope I can measure up to those. As a leader of the Motor Truck Association and the trucking industry as a whole, I think it's important for us leaders to, every opportunity we have, to put a positive spin on what we do for a living. I feel that the old saying, if you bought it, a truck brought it, is a great way to do that. When I first heard that, I really liked it and I've hung on to that. But I think we could add to that a little bit and say that a truck brought it safely. We get a bad rap sometimes being the big bad guys out on the roadway. I think it's important that people are aware of our safety record and how that is improving year after year after year. And I also think one other thing that we all probably need to educate people on is the number of people in the trucking industry, not only here in the state of Iowa, but nationwide, how many people we employ. That is a big one, and I think we need to get that message out. To the membership, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to serve this year as your chairman. I pledge that I will do all that I can do to uphold the level of leadership that you've come to expect. I would like to challenge every one of you to get involved. Get involved in any way you can on any committee that you're asked to participate in. And if you can't devote the time, maybe look within your organization and see if there's somebody, a young and up and coming leader within your organization that you would be able to allow them to get involved. Because I think the cliche is so true. You only get out of something is what you put into it. And we'd sure like you to feel like you're getting a good return on your investment, and the best way to do that is to get involved. Thank you.